I watched my sister inherit money and immediately asked me to loan her more, then accused me of being greedy when I said no. I was standing in my kitchen making coffee when my phone buzzed with a text from my sister Vivian that made me laugh out loud. "Can you loan me $85,000? I need it by Friday." This was 8 hours after she'd inherited $340,000 from our Aunt Millicent's estate. 8 hours. I read it 3 times, certain it was a joke, maybe even a screenshot she'd accidentally sent me from some Reddit post about entitled siblings. But then the 3 dots appeared, pulsing at the bottom of my screen, and another message came through. "I know you have it. Family helps family." My hand froze halfway to my mouth with the coffee mug. She was serious. I'd spent the last 6 years building my consulting business from nothing, working 70-hour weeks, living in a studio apartment with furniture from estate sales while I poured every dollar back into the company. Vivian knew this because I'd helped her move 4 times during those same 6 years, each apartment bigger than the last, each funded by a different boyfriend or a new credit card she'd somehow qualified for, despite never holding a job longer than 8 months. She'd borrowed my truck, my tools, my time. I'd co-signed her car lease when she was 23 because Dad asked me to, then spent 18 months making payments when she decided the monthly bill was inconvenient. The car got repossessed anyway. I'd never asked her to pay me back because that's what family did, right? You helped without keeping score. Except apparently, Vivian had been keeping score the entire time, and in her ledger, I owed her everything. The funeral had been 6 days earlier. Aunt Millicent had been Dad's older sister, a sharp-minded woman who'd never married, never had kids, and had spent 40 years as a patent attorney in Chicago, before retiring to a small house in Asheville. She'd called me every few weeks, always wanting to hear about the business, offering advice that was surprisingly relevant, even though her legal expertise was in technology patents, not business consulting. She'd sent me a leather-bound notebook for my 30th birthday, with a note that said, "For all the ideas that matter." I'd cried reading it because she was one of the few people in my family who'd ever acted like my work mattered, like I was building something real instead of wasting time on a hobby business, which is what Dad called it, until my company cleared $500,000 in revenue last year. Vivian hadn't visited Aunt Millicent once in the last 5 years. Not once. When Millicent had hip surgery 3 years ago, I'd driven down to Asheville every weekend for 2 months to help her with groceries, yard work, and physical therapy exercises. Vivian had sent a card. 1 card. It had a generic printed message, and her signature, nothing else. But at the funeral, Vivian had sobbed so loudly during the service that people in the front row turned around. She'd worn black Chanel sunglasses and a dress I knew cost more than my monthly rent, because she'd posted about it on Instagram 2 weeks earlier with the caption, "Investment pieces matter." She'd gripped Dad's arm like she might collapse, and everyone whispered about how hard this was for her, how close she and Millicent had been. I'd stood there in my only suit, the one I'd bought for business meetings, and felt sick. The will reading happened on a Thursday morning at the law offices of Graham Sheffield and Associates in downtown Asheville. Attorney Graham Sheffield was maybe 60, with gray hair and the kind of steady voice that made you believe everything would be handled properly. He'd been Millicent's attorney for 23 years. The office smelled like old books and furniture polish. Dad sat on my left, Vivian on my right, and Mom had stayed home because she and Millicent had never gotten along, something about an argument at a wedding in 1997 that nobody would explain. Sheffield opened the folder, adjusted his reading glasses, and began with the standard legal phrasing before getting to the specifics. To me, Millicent left her book collection, approximately 2,000 volumes, along with $15,000 designated specifically for continuing education in business or law, should Nathan choose to pursue it. To Vivian, she left the remainder of her estate, the house in Asheville, her investment portfolio, and liquid assets totaling approximately $340,000 after taxes and fees. I wasn't angry, not even disappointed. Millicent had always been practical, and Vivian was her goddaughter. There was a family logic to it that made sense even if it stung a little. What I didn't expect was Vivian's reaction. She'd gone completely still when Sheffield read the numbers, her face blank, and I'd assumed she was processing the grief mixed with the shock of sudden wealth. Then she'd turned to me and whispered, "That's it?" Like $340,000 was a coupon for a free coffee. I'd stared at her, waiting for the punchline, but her jaw was tight and her eyes had that look she got when she was calculating something, doing math in her head that only ever seemed to benefit her. Sheffield had continued reading, explaining that the house was worth approximately $280,000 and that Vivian would need to decide whether to sell or maintain it within 90 days. She'd nodded absently, still looking at me like I'd personally stolen something from her. The text asking for $85,000 came exactly 8 hours after we'd left Sheffield's office. I stared at my phone in the kitchen, the coffee going cold in my hand, trying to understand the logic. She had more money than she'd ever had in her life, sitting in accounts that would transfer to her within 2 weeks, and she was asking me for nearly 6 figures. I typed back, "Why do you need money? You just inherited everything." The response came in seconds. "The inheritance is tied up. I need cash now for an investment opportunity. This could triple by next year. You'll get it all back plus interest." I set my phone down and paced the kitchen. Investment opportunity. Vivian had once invested $3,000 in a friend's organic juice cleanse startup that folded in 4 months. She'd invested in cryptocurrency in 2021 at the peak and sold at the bottom. She'd bought into a multi-level marketing scheme selling leggings and had boxes of inventory still stacked in Dad's garage. I called her. She answered on the first ring. "So you'll do it?" Her voice was bright, expectant, like I'd already agreed. "Vivian, what investment opportunity requires $85,000 in cash by Friday?" I heard her sigh, that particular sound she made when she thought someone was being deliberately difficult. "It's a real estate flip. My friend Danielle found this property, but we need to move fast. All cash offer. We can resell in 6 months for double." I pinched the bridge of my nose. "You have $340,000 coming to you. Why can't you wait 2 weeks?" "Because we'll lose the property. Nathan, this is a sure thing. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important." I could hear traffic in the background, realized she was driving. "And you need me specifically because?" "Because you have liquid assets. You're always talking about your business accounts and your emergency fund. This is what emergency funds are for. Opportunities." Something cold settled in my chest. She'd been listening when I'd mentioned the business reserves, the account I'd built up over 3 years of saving every extra dollar, the safety net that let me sleep at night knowing I could handle a slow quarter or an unexpected expense. I'd mentioned it once, maybe twice, in the context of explaining why I couldn't loan her money for her last apartment deposit. "My emergency fund is for business emergencies, Vivian, not real estate speculation." Her voice shifted, got sharper. "Real estate speculation? This is an investment. God, you sound just like Dad, so paranoid about everything. Some of us are willing to take risks." "Risks with other people's money, apparently." The line went silent for 3 seconds. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you have $340,000, and you're asking me for more before you've even received it. It means this sounds like every other opportunity you've jumped into." "Wow." Her voice dropped to something cold and flat. "Wow. Okay. So that's how it is. I ask my brother for help, and you throw my past in my face." "I'm not throwing anything. I'm asking reasonable questions." "No, you're being a selfish asshole. You've always been like this, hoarding money, acting superior because you have a business. Newsflash, Nathan, having a consulting company doesn't make you Warren Buffett. It makes you a guy who sends invoices." The words hit harder than I expected. "Viviana." "Forget it. Forget I asked. I'll figure it out myself like I always do. But don't come crying to me when you need something, because I'll remember this. Family helps family, except apparently not when Nathan gets to decide." She hung up. I stood in my kitchen holding my phone, feeling like I'd been punched. The coffee had gone completely cold. 20 minutes later, my phone started buzzing. Not a call. Messages. First from Dad. "Your sister called me very upset. What's going on?" Then from my cousin Leslie. "Hey, Viv told me you refused to help her with the estate stuff. What happened?" Then from Vivian's best friend Amber, someone I'd met maybe twice. "Really classy refusing to help your sister when she just lost her godmother." I read them in sequence, my confusion turning to something sharper. "Estate stuff?" I opened the message thread with Dad and called him. He answered with, "I thought you two were close." "We are. Were. Dad, what did she tell you?" "She said you refused to help her access Aunt Millicent's estate, that there's some legal issue and she needs money to resolve it, but you won't help even though Millicent left you money too." I actually laughed, a short bark of disbelief. "Dad, that's not what happened. She asked me to loan her $85,000 for a real estate investment. I said no, there's no legal issue with the estate." Silence on the line. Then, $85,000? "Yes." "For what?" "She said a real estate flip with a friend. Dad, she just inherited $340,000. Why would she need my money?" More silence, longer this time. I heard him exhale slowly. "I don't know, son. But she was crying on the phone, really upset. Said you called her irresponsible." I didn't, but I stopped, because I had kind of implied it, hadn't I? I questioned the investment. I didn't call her anything. "Well, she's hurt. Maybe you should call her and smooth this over." "Smooth what over? She lied to you about what happened." "Nathan." His voice had that warning tone, the one that meant stop arguing. "She's your sister. She just lost someone important. Maybe cut her some slack." I wanted to throw my phone across the room. Instead, I said, "Sure, Dad, I'll handle it," and hung up before he could respond. The messages kept coming. Vivian had apparently sent a group text to extended family explaining that she was going through legal issues with the inheritance, and that I was refusing to help despite Millicent leaving me money too. My Aunt Carol, who I hadn't spoken to in 2 years, sent me a message calling me selfish. Uncle Raymond sent a question mark. My cousin David sent, "Dude, what's going on?" I ignored all of them, opened my laptop, and started looking up real estate investment scams. Because that's what this felt like now. Not just Vivian being impulsive, but something coordinated. The immediate ask after inheritance, the tight deadline, the friend I'd never heard of, the pivot to playing victim when I said no. Friday came and went. Vivian didn't contact me, but the family messages continued. She'd posted something on social media about learning who your real family is, and people showing their true colors in hard times. 38 people had liked it. 12 had left supportive comments. I didn't respond, didn't engage, just watched the narrative build around me like a cage. On Sunday, Dad called again. Your mother wants you to come to dinner on Wednesday, family dinner. We need to talk about this situation. What situation? Vivian lying about what happened? Nathan, please, just come to dinner. Let's work this out as a family. I agreed, because saying no would just add fuel to whatever story Vivian was building. Wednesday arrived with rain, one of those early autumn storms that turned the roads slick and made the sky the color of bruises. Mom had made pot roast, which she only did for serious occasions. The dining room table was set like Thanksgiving. Nice plates, cloth napkins, the serving dishes we only used for holidays. Vivian was already there when I arrived, sitting next to Mom, her eyes red like she'd been crying recently. Dad gestured me to the seat across from her. We ate in loaded silence for 10 minutes before Dad cleared his throat. So, I think we need to talk about what happened with Aunt Millicent's estate. I set down my fork. There's nothing wrong with the estate. Vivian inherited everything according to the will. That's it. Vivian's voice was quiet, hurt. That's not what this is about, and you know it. Then what is it about? It's about you acting like I don't deserve what Millicent left me, like I'm going to waste it. I stared at her across the table, genuinely confused. I never said that. You implied it, when you refused to help me. Help you with what, Vivian? Say it clearly. Tell Mom and Dad exactly what you asked me for. Her jaw tightened. Mom intervened. Nathan, there's no need to be aggressive. I'm not being aggressive. I'm asking her to be honest about what she asked me for. Dad leaned forward. She told us she needed help with legal fees to access the inheritance faster. That's a lie. The word dropped like a stone. Vivian's eyes went wide, wounded. Mom gasped. Nathan. It's a lie, I repeated, looking at Vivian. You asked me for $85,000 for a real estate investment with a friend. You said it was an opportunity that would triple in value. You never mentioned legal fees or the estate. Vivian's face did something complicated. Shock, then calculation, then hurt. She chose hurt. I can't believe you're calling me a liar in front of our parents. Show them the texts, then. She flinched. Actually, flinched. What? Show them the texts, the ones where you asked me for money. They're right there in your phone. Show them what you actually asked for. Her hand went to her phone on the table, then stopped. I deleted them. Convenient. I was upset. I didn't want to see them. Her voice rose, cracked. You made me feel like garbage, Nathan. Like I was some kind of beggar. I was trying to include you in an opportunity, and you acted like I was trying to scam you. Were you? The question came out quieter than I intended. Mom stood up. That's enough. Both of you. This is family dinner, not an interrogation. But Dad was looking at Vivian now, something shifting in his expression. What real estate investment? Vivian turned to him. It doesn't matter now. The opportunity's gone. I missed it because Nathan wouldn't help, and now it's too late. What was the property? Dad pressed. Where was it? Does it matter? Yes. Vivian stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. I don't have to defend myself, especially not to him. Millicent left me that money because she trusted me, and if Nathan can't be happy for me, that's his problem. She grabbed her purse and coat. Mom reached for her. Vivian, sit down. No. I came here thinking we could fix this, but clearly Nathan's made up his mind about me. He thinks I'm irresponsible and stupid, and nothing I say will change that. She looked at me, eyes bright with tears that might have been real. I hope you're happy with yourself. She left. The front door closed hard enough to rattle the frame. Mom turned on me immediately. Are you satisfied? Mom, she lied to you. She's grieving. She just lost her godmother. So did I. But that was the wrong thing to say, because I hadn't cried at the funeral, hadn't sobbed loud enough for people to notice, and in Mom's equation, that meant I cared less. Dad was quiet, staring at his plate. Finally, he said, Did she really ask you for $85,000? Yes. For a real estate thing? Yes. He nodded slowly, picked up his wine glass, then set it down without drinking. That's a lot of money. I know. And she has the inheritance coming. I know. Mom made a frustrated sound. But maybe she does have legal fees. Maybe... Margaret. Dad's voice was firm. She told us she needed money to access the estate. That's not how estates work. Sheffield would have explained that to her. The money transfers automatically once probate clears. Mom's face did something uncertain. Well, maybe she misunderstood. Or maybe she lied. I stood up because I couldn't sit there anymore. Couldn't watch them bend reality to make Vivian's story work. Thank you for dinner. I'm going to go. I left before they could argue. Driving home through the rain, my phone buzzed 4 times. I didn't look. When I got back to my apartment, I pulled up the text thread with Vivian and took screenshots of everything. Her initial request, my questions, her responses about the investment opportunity. All of it. I saved them to 3 different places: my phone, my laptop, and a cloud drive. I didn't know why I felt the need to preserve evidence, but some instinct told me this wasn't over. The next morning, I got an email from Graham Sheffield's office. Subject line: Millicent Foster Estate. Request for information. My stomach dropped. I opened it. Mr. Nathan Foster, we received an inquiry from your sister Vivian regarding the distribution of your late aunt's estate. She has requested documentation proving that her inheritance was properly calculated and that no assets were improperly allocated to other beneficiaries. While this is unusual, we want to ensure all parties are satisfied with the estate settlement. Please contact our office at your earliest convenience to discuss. I read it twice. Then I called Sheffield's office. The receptionist put me through immediately. Sheffield's voice was professionally neutral. Mr. Foster, thank you for calling. What's going on? Your sister came to our office yesterday. She seemed quite distressed. She expressed concerns that the estate settlement might have been incorrect, that she should have inherited more than was distributed to her. I closed my eyes. Did she say why she thinks that? She mentioned that you had a close relationship with Ms. Foster and implied that perhaps Ms. Foster had made verbal promises to her that weren't reflected in the will. She asked if wills could be contested on those grounds. Can they? In certain circumstances, but the burden of proof is extremely high, and in this case, Ms. Foster's will was very clearly written and recently updated. There's no ambiguity. Sheffield paused. Mr. Foster, may I speak frankly? Please. Your sister also asked detailed questions about your inheritance. Specifically, whether the books and the $15,000 were valued correctly, and whether there might be additional assets that weren't disclosed. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. She thinks I'm hiding money. She didn't say that explicitly, but yes, that was the implication. Sheffield's voice softened slightly. For what it's worth, I've handled estates for 30 years. I've seen family dynamics play out in every way possible. Your aunt's will was extremely clear. She met with me 6 months before she passed to update it. She was of sound mind, very specific about her wishes, and she explained her reasoning for each bequest. I cannot share those reasons without violating attorney-client privilege, but I can tell you that she thought very carefully about what she was doing. Something in his tone made me ask, did she expect Vivian to react like this? A long pause. She anticipated certain possibilities. That's all I can say. I thanked him and hung up, then sat staring at my laptop screen. Vivian wasn't just asking for money anymore. She was questioning the entire estate, implying I'd somehow manipulated Aunt Millicent or hidden assets. The narrative was shifting from Nathan won't help me to Nathan stole from me, and she was doing it with lawyers, with official channels, making it legitimate and scary. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered cautiously. Is this Nathan Foster? A woman's voice, professional, slightly tired. Yes? This is Patricia Donnelly. I'm a certified financial planner. Your sister Vivian came to see me yesterday. She's listed you as a reference on some paperwork, and I have a few questions. I felt the ground shift under me. What kind of paperwork? She's applying for a business loan. $200,000. She listed you as a business partner and character reference. If this story keeps your interest, please subscribe to get more stories like this. I stood up so fast my chair rolled backward and hit the wall. I'm not her business partner. I have no business relationship with her at all. Silence on the line. Then, I see. She indicated you were partnering with her on a real estate investment venture. No, absolutely not. She asked me for a personal loan 3 weeks ago, and I declined. We are not partners in anything. I could hear Patricia Donnelly typing. Mr. Foster, did your sister inherit money recently? Yes. About $340,000 from our aunt's estate. More typing. And she's applying for a $200,000 loan? Apparently. A long exhale. Mr. Foster, I'm going to ask you something directly, and I need you to be honest with me. Do you believe your sister is financially stable? I thought about every bounced check, every maxed credit card, every abandoned investment, every time she'd called Dad crying about money. No. Thank you for your honesty. I won't be approving this loan. She hung up. I stood in my apartment, hands shaking, trying to piece together what was happening. Vivian had inherited more money than most people see in 5 years, and instead of being satisfied, she was trying to borrow more from me, contest the estate, and take out massive loans using my name as a reference. Why? What could possibly require that much money that quickly? I opened my laptop and started searching. Real estate flips, investment scams, debt consolidation, gambling, multi-level marketing, anything that might explain the desperate cash grab. Then I found something that made my blood run cold. A Reddit thread from 2 months ago, posted by someone with the username Viv the Living. The writing style was unmistakable. The post. Just found out my godmother is terminally ill, and I'm her main beneficiary. She has about $400,000 in assets. My brother is also in the will, but getting way less. Problem. I have about $180,000 in credit card debt and personal loans my family doesn't know about. If I inherit the money, can creditors come after it? Should I try to get my brother to take some of it so it's protected? Need advice? ASAP. I screenshot the post, checked the account history. More posts about debt, about hiding purchases, about managing family expectations. One from 3 months ago. How to convince family member to co-sign loan without them knowing the full amount. I felt sick. Really, genuinely sick. The $85,000 she'd asked me for wasn't for an investment. It was to cover debt she'd hidden. And when I said no, she pivoted to contesting the estate, trying to get loans in my name, anything to access more money before her creditors caught up. I called my cousin Leslie, the one who'd texted me asking what happened. She answered on the third ring. Nathan? Les, I need you to be honest with me. Has Vivian asked you for money recently? What? No. Why? Has she asked anyone in the family for money? Silence. Then, she asked Uncle Raymond for $5,000 last month. Said it was for car repairs. Did she get it? Yeah, he gave it to her. I closed my eyes. Les, I need to show you something. I sent her the screenshots, the Reddit posts, the texts where Vivian had asked me for money, everything. Oh my God, Leslie breathed. Nathan, this is... How much debt does she have? At least $180,000 based on what she posted. Maybe more now. The inheritance won't cover it if she's still spending. And I think she's trying to borrow more before everything crashes. Leslie was quiet for a long moment. What are you going to do? I didn't have an answer. That night, I got an email from my bank. Someone had attempted to add themselves as an authorized user on my business account. The request was flagged because it came from an unfamiliar IP address and included information that didn't match my security questions. The attempted name, Vivian Foster. I called the bank's fraud line immediately. They'd blocked the attempt, but the representative told me someone had called claiming to be me, saying they needed to add a business partner for estate planning purposes. They'd gotten past the first security layer before the system flagged inconsistencies. We see these kinds of attempts regularly, the representative said. Usually it's identity theft. Do you know anyone who might have access to your personal information? My sister. You should file a police report. I sat with that advice for 2 hours before I finally called the non-emergency police line. They sent an officer to take a statement. Officer Jerome Whitfield, maybe 35, with the kind of patient expression that suggested he'd heard everything before. He sat at my kitchen table and wrote down everything: the inheritance, the loan request, the Reddit posts, the attempted bank fraud. Has she made any threats against you? No, just family pressure, guilt trips. But she tried to access your bank account without permission. Yes. And she's listed you as a business partner on loan applications without your knowledge. Yes. He clicked his pen. Mr. Foster, this is identity fraud. It's a crime. I can file this report, but you need to understand that if we pursue this, your sister could face charges. I thought about Vivian crying at the funeral. Vivian calling me from college when her roommate drama got too intense. Vivian at 12, making me promise to always be on her side no matter what. I don't want her arrested. I just want her to stop. Officer Whitfield nodded slowly. I understand. But here's the thing. People don't usually stop this kind of behavior on their own, especially if they're desperate. And your sister seems desperate. He was right. I knew he was right. File the report, I said. But don't do anything yet. Just have it on record. He agreed, gave me a case number, and left. I sat in my apartment that felt too quiet and wondered when exactly my sister had become someone I needed police reports to protect myself from. The next day, I got a call from my dad. Nathan, your sister's car was repossessed. I went completely still. What? This morning, tow truck came and took it right from her apartment complex. She's devastated. Dad, how is that possible? She just inherited... I don't know, son. She's saying it's a mistake, that the lease company messed up, but she needs help. She can't get to work without a car. I almost laughed. What work? Vivian hasn't had a job in 4 months. Silence. Then quieter. How do you know that? Because I pay attention. Dad, she's in debt. Serious debt. The inheritance isn't going to fix it because she's already spending more than she received. That's not... Nathan, that's a serious accusation. It's not an accusation. It's a fact. I sent him the screenshots I'd sent Leslie. Heard him go quiet as he read them. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Older. Jesus Christ. Yeah. How much does she owe? At least $180,000 that I know of. Probably more. And the inheritance is $340,000 after taxes, which seems like a lot until you realize she's probably still accumulating debt faster than she can pay it off. Dad, she tried to access my bank accounts. She's listing me as a business partner on loan applications I know nothing about. She's not grieving. She's drowning. A long exhale. What do we do? It was the first time my dad had ever asked me that question like I was the adult, and he wasn't. I don't know, but we can't give her money. It won't help. It'll just delay the inevitable. Your mother's going to be crushed. I know. We sat with that for a moment. Then Dad said, I'll talk to her. Your mother. Try to explain. Good luck. I meant it sincerely. That evening, Vivian called me. First time since the dinner disaster. I let it ring twice before answering. Nathan. Her voice was raw. I need help. With what? Everything. It's all falling apart. The car, the credit cards. I can't keep up. For a moment, I felt the old instinct kick in, the protective older brother who'd always fix things. Then I remembered the Reddit posts, the bank fraud attempt, the lies told to lawyers and family. Vivian, how much debt are you in? Silence. Tell me the truth. All of it. It's not that bad. The Reddit post said $180,000. Is that current? I heard her breath catch. You found that? Yes. You had no right to try to access my bank account, to list me as a business partner on loans, to lie to our family about why you needed money. Silence. Longer this time. When she spoke, her voice was small. I didn't mean for it to get this bad. How bad is it? 230,000. The number hit like a physical blow. Jesus, Vivian, how? Credit cards mostly, and a personal loan I took out to pay the credit cards, but then I needed the credit cards again for living expenses, and it spiraled. The inheritance won't cover it. I'll have about $110,000 left after I pay everything off, if I'm lucky. So you thought you'd borrow from me. I thought if I could invest it, make it grow, I could fix everything before anyone found out. I wanted to scream. Instead, I said, very calmly, Vivian, you can't invest your way out of debt. That's not how it works. I know that now. Her voice cracked. I know, okay? I fucked up. I fucked up really badly, and now I don't know what to do. I closed my eyes. This was the moment. The point where I could either help her or draw a line. You need to tell Mom and Dad the truth. All of it. I can't. You have to. They'll hate me. They'll be disappointed. But they'll help you figure this out. You can't do this alone, and you definitely can't do it by lying and borrowing your way deeper. She was crying now, real tears I could hear through the phone. Nathan, I'm so scared. I know. I'm sorry. For everything. The bank thing, the loan applications, all of it. I was panicking. I know. Will you help me tell them? And there it was. The moment where I had to decide what kind of brother I was going to be. Yes. But Vivian, if you ever try to use my information or access my accounts again, I will press charges. Police reports already filed. Understand? I understand. And you need to get professional help. A financial counselor. Maybe a therapist. This isn't just about money. Okay. Her voice was barely a whisper. We set up a family meeting for Sunday. Mom, Dad, me, and Vivian. This time, no pot roast, no ceremony. Just the 5 of us in my parents' living room with Vivian's laptop open, showing bank statements and credit card balances that made Mom gasp and Dad go gray. Vivian told them everything. The spending, the hiding, the debt, the desperate attempts to borrow more. She showed them the Reddit posts, admitted to the bank fraud attempt, laid it all out. Mom cried. Dad looked like he'd aged 10 years, but they didn't yell. They asked questions. Lots of questions. How long had this been going on? Why hadn't she asked for help sooner? What was she spending money on? Vivian's answers were halting, ashamed, but honest. Clothes she didn't need, trips she couldn't afford, trying to maintain an image for social media, trying to prove she was successful like me. That last part made me flinch. Vivian, I live in a studio apartment. But you have a business. You're doing something real. Everyone talks about how proud they are of you. And you think going into debt to look successful is better? I thought it would become real if I looked the part long enough. It was the saddest thing I'd heard her say. Dad took control of the practical side. He contacted a bankruptcy attorney, got Vivian set up with a credit counseling service, helped her create a realistic budget for what would be left after the inheritance cleared and the debts were paid. Mom found a therapist who specialized in financial anxiety and compulsive spending. I gave Vivian the contact information for a financial literacy course one of my clients had recommended. We built a support structure, but we also built boundaries. No one was giving her cash. No one was co-signing anything. She would handle this with professional help and family support, but not enabling. The inheritance came through 3 weeks later. Vivian paid off $230,000 in debt in one day. Watching those balances go to zero seemed to physically change her. Her shoulders relaxed, her face looked younger. She sold Aunt Millicent's house and put the proceeds toward a small condo purchase, something she could actually afford. She got a job doing social media management for a local nonprofit, using the skills she'd developed building her own carefully curated online presence. It paid $42,000 a year, which wasn't much, but it was steady, and it was real. She started seeing the therapist twice a week. Mom went with her sometimes. It wasn't a magical fix. Vivian still struggled. She'd slip sometimes, buy something she didn't need, then return it the next day. But she was trying. Really trying. 4 months after everything exploded, Vivian and I met for coffee. A real conversation, not a family mediation. She looked different, less polished, more genuine. I need to apologize, she said. You did already. No, I mean really apologize, for trying to steal from you, for lying about you to the family, For making you the villain when you were just setting boundaries I didn't want to respect. She met my eyes. You could have pressed charges. You could have let me destroy myself. But you didn't. You're my sister. I know. But I didn't act like you were my brother. I treated you like an ATM, and that was wrong. I nodded. We sat in silence for a moment. Then she asked, "Why did Aunt Millicent leave me so much more than you?" I'd wondered when she'd ask. Sheffield told me she updated her will 6 months before she died. I think she knew you'd need it more. Vivian's eyes went bright. She knew I was in debt? I don't know what she knew specifically, but Millicent was perceptive. She probably saw the pattern even if she didn't know the numbers. And she still left it to me. Yes. Why? I thought about Millicent, about the way she'd always asked pointed questions, always pushed people to think harder. Because she believed you could figure it out. She didn't leave you money to enable you. She left you money to give you one real shot at fixing your life. And she was right. Vivian wiped her eyes. I almost wasted it. But you didn't. Only because you stopped me. No, you stopped yourself. I just held the mirror. She smiled, watery but real. That's very therapist of you. I've been doing some reading. We both laughed, and it felt like something had shifted, like maybe we could actually be siblings again, instead of just people who shared DNA and trauma. 6 months later, I got a letter from Graham Sheffield's office. Inside was a smaller sealed envelope with my name written in Millicent's distinctive handwriting. Sheffield's note explained that Millicent had left instructions for this to be delivered 6 months after the estate settled, assuming circumstances warranted it. I opened the envelope carefully. Inside was a single page, dated 2 weeks before Millicent died. Nathan, if you're reading this, it means Vivian encountered trouble with the inheritance, and you helped her navigate it. I knew she would. I've watched her spiral for years, and I've watched you try to save her. I left her the bulk of the estate not because she deserved it more, but because she needed the crisis. Money wasn't her real problem. Her relationship with money was. I hoped that inheriting a significant sum while drowning in hidden debt would force the issue into the open where your family could actually address it. The letter continued. I left you less because you don't measure your worth in dollars, and because I trusted you to do the right thing when she inevitably asked you for more. The $15,000 for education was my way of telling you to keep investing in yourself, not others. The books were because I know you'll actually read them. And because there's one in particular I think you'll need, check the Steinbeck collection. I went to the boxes of books still stacked in my spare room, found the Steinbeck section, and pulled out East of Eden. Inside the front cover was another envelope, thicker this time. Another letter. This one's private. You've earned it. Inside was a check for $50,000 and a note. For the brother who knew when to help and when to hold firm. Build something beautiful. M. I sat on my floor surrounded by boxes of books and cried like I hadn't cried at the funeral. Millicent had orchestrated all of it, the unequal inheritance, the timing, the crisis. She'd set up a test, not of me, but for Vivian, and she'd trusted me to help her pass it. I called Vivian. When she answered, I said, Millicent was playing chess while we were playing checkers. What? I told her about the letters. Vivian was quiet for a long time. Then, she really thought I could fix myself? Yeah. And she trusted you to help me do it without enabling me. Yeah. That's incredibly manipulative. Yep. And kind of brilliant. Also, yep. Vivian laughed, the sound lighter than I'd heard from her in years. I miss her. Me too. Nathan? Yeah? Thank you. For being who you are, even when I made it really hard. You're welcome. And Viv? Yeah? Don't ever try to access my bank accounts again. Deal. A year after Aunt Millicent's funeral, our family gathered for Thanksgiving. Vivian brought her therapist's recommendation letter. She'd successfully completed treatment and was maintaining healthy financial habits. Dad looked proud in a way I hadn't seen directed at Vivian in years. Mom cried happy tears. Leslie gave Vivian a hug that looked like it cracked ribs. Uncle Raymond asked if she'd paid him back the $5,000 for car repairs. She had, with interest and an apology. We ate turkey and argued about football and told embarrassing stories about each other, and it felt normal in a way it hadn't felt in years. After dinner, Vivian and I did dishes. Elbow deep in soap suds, she said, I got a promotion at work. Yeah? Social media director. $58,000 a year, and I'm not going to blow it this time. I know. How do you know? I handed her a plate to dry. Because you just told your brother about a promotion without immediately asking to borrow money to celebrate it. She laughed, setting the bar pretty low there. Taking what I can get. We finished the dishes in comfortable silence. As I was leaving, Vivian walked me to my car. I've been thinking about what Millicent did, she said, setting up that whole situation. And? Part of me is still mad that she didn't just sit me down and tell me I had a problem. But mostly, I'm grateful, because she knew I wouldn't have listened to a lecture. I needed to hit rock bottom in a controlled environment. Controlled? She made sure I'd have enough to survive the fall, and she made sure you'd be there to help me climb back up. That's controlled. I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and saw someone different from the person who'd asked me for $85,000 8 hours after inheriting a fortune. Someone humbler, harder, more real. You did the climbing, Viv. I just spotted you. Still. She hugged me, quick and tight. I love you, even though you're insufferably responsible. I love you, even though you tried to commit bank fraud against me. She pulled back, laughing. Are we ever going to let that go? Absolutely not. That's sibling ammunition for life. Fair. I drove home through November darkness, thinking about inheritance and what we actually passed down. Millicent had left Vivian money, but what she'd really given her was a crisis that forced growth. She'd left me books and a smaller sum, but what she'd really given me was trust. Trust that I'd do the right thing even when it was hard. The numbers had never been the point. The point was who we became in the process of dealing with them. My phone buzzed at a red light. Text from Vivian. Hey, I know I've been better about boundaries, but I have a favor to ask. My stomach tightened. Old reflexes. Then the second text came. Can you look over my business plan? I'm thinking about freelancing on the side, but I want a second opinion before I commit to anything. No money involved, just your honest take. I smiled, typed back, send it over, happy to help. Because that's what family did. Not enabling, not rescuing, just supporting each other through the actual work of becoming better. The light turned green. I drove home, the city lights blurring past, thinking that maybe Millicent had left us one more thing. The possibility that we could all survive our worst selves if we had people willing to love us through the consequences. And maybe that was the real inheritance all along.